You know what's funny? The women you see yelling on podcasts don't represent women. They just have the loudest personalities. But the internet doesn't care about truth. It cares about volume. The louder you are, the more the algorithm feeds you. That's why people think every woman today is a boss babe or a man-hater. But that's not real life. It's personality types on display, not the female population. Women with bold dominant energy, what I call the strategist or the realist types, are wired to speak up, to challenge, to lead. That's just their nature. The problem is they have the biggest microphone, so they end up defining all women. Meanwhile, the softer ones, the healer, the harmonizer, the archivist, they're quiet. They don't chase cameras or arguments. They're living normal lives, but they never trend. So what looks like a gender war online is really just a handful of personality types arguing in front of millions of silent ones. That's why it feels like men versus women online. Because that's what the loudest personalities turned it into. But it's not a gender war by nature. It's a personality war that got branded as one. And the algorithms made sure it stayed that way. It's not that modern women changed, it's that the loud ones finally found a microphone. What most people call masculine women are usually just women with different wiring. They're not trying to be men. They simply lead with traits normally seen as masculine: assertiveness, logic, dominance. Those traits appear more often in men, which is why women who have them stand out. They're rare but not unnatural. The strategist and the realist types love challenge, decision making, and control. They thrive in leadership. So when they talk, it sounds like authority. Then you have the softer types, the healer, the harmonizer, the archivist. They're the ones who keep the peace, who bring balance, who stabilize everything, but they're invisible online. And on the rare occasion when they do speak up, they get labeled. You'll hear words like "pick me" thrown at them just because they don't follow the loud narrative. Can you imagine that? A woman who actually understands men being insulted for it. A man builds himself up to be chosen. Women do the same. But when a woman says that out loud and it breaks the hive mind script, she gets shamed as a pick-me. We're mocking harmony now. Social media makes it worse. The algorithm doesn't reward peace. It rewards conflict. So who wins? The loud ones. Every time. This is how personality became politics. It's not about values anymore. It's about visibility. When feminism first began, it wasn't led by the average woman. It was led by the strategists and the realists. Bold, assertive women driven to push boundaries. But the world back then wasn't men versus women. It was survival. Life was hard. Men worked dangerous jobs. Women held families together. Nobody was privileged. Everyone was surviving. When the Industrial Revolution came, labour moved from muscle to mind. That shift opened new doors, especially for women. Feminism didn't come from hatred. It came from evolution. Society advanced, and women wanted to grow with it. But the movement's loudest voices, those bold types again, became the face of all women. Their energy was needed at first, but over time, that same energy started defining what empowered meant. They assumed every woman was wired like them, ambitious, dominant, assertive. But most women aren't like that. The majority are nurturing, relational, grounded. So when those few loud types reshaped femininity, they didn't free most women. They confused them. They created a world where gentle women feel weak and strong women feel disconnected. Back then, even the bold ones had balance. They were raised in traditional homes with structure and softness. Now that balance is gone, culture teaches power but forgets grounding. It praises independence but ignores connection. So we end up with strength but no center. That's why women like Queen Gorgo from 300 stand out. She was powerful yet deeply feminine. Rare women like that still exist. They're just not celebrated anymore. It's Athena without wisdom, the armor without the divine. Older women still remember balance because they were raised by mothers who valued family first. But Gen Z and younger millennials grew up with algorithms as mentors, and that changed everything. Their role models aren't mothers anymore. They're influencers. So, the feminine script got replaced with performance, and connection got replaced with content. A lot of women today aren't acting dominant because they love it. They're doing it because they think it's the only way to survive. The world rewards the loud, the bold, the boss-like. But that doesn't fit every personality. When a gentle woman forces herself to live like a strategist, she burns out, anxious, tired, disconnected. And the women who are strategists suffer too. They lead with power, but forget softness. They win battles, but lose peace. That's why so many feel unfulfilled. Everyone's performing instead of living their truth. You can't heal by pretending to be someone else. Most people don't even know who that someone else is. They're copying a highlight reel, not a human pattern. You heal by remembering who you are. These loud, combative women, the ones who dominate every argument, aren't bad people. They're misunderstood. Most of these women were never raised to be soft in the first place. They were raised to compete, to outperform, to survive, not to nurture. So when it comes to relationships, they struggle because no one ever taught them how to switch from control to connection. They're powerful, but not prepared. And that's why dating feels like war to them. They want a strong man, but their habits make it hard to let one lead. They've built an identity around independence, so partnership feels like a threat. Most men don't know how to handle that, so they walk away. They want a man stronger than them, but gentle enough not to trigger their defenses. That mix is almost mythical. So they end up caught between attraction and resentment, strength and loneliness. And here's something men forget in all this. Even the nurturing, feminine women, the ones who genuinely want peace and partnership, have been affected by modern culture. The feminist language is everywhere now. It's baked into ads, classrooms, and workplace slogans. So half the time, it's not ideology. It's just the air people breathe. You'll hear even the softest women say things like, "I don't need a man," or "I'm focusing on myself first." That doesn't always mean she believes it. Sometimes she's just repeating what she's been taught. That's why you have to pay attention to actions, not just words. A woman might sound independent, but when she meets a man she truly desires and respects, her energy changes naturally. She becomes cooperative, nurturing, peaceful, not because he forced her to be, but because she feels safe enough to be. That's the difference between ideology and instinct. One is programmed, the other is primal. The smartest men don't argue with words, they watch behavior. and the same machine that sold women independence sold men status over purpose. So both sexes ended up performing instead of connecting. When people finally notice the difference, they confuse attraction with alignment. You meet that wild, rebellious girl. She's exciting, full of life. But is she nurturing? Is she peaceful enough to raise your kids or bring calm into your home? That's the question most men never ask until it's too late. Now let's talk about male feminists, the empathetic ones. These guys are rare. They're harmony-driven, idealistic, and avoid conflict. I call them the beta male orbiters, the emotional shoulders, the safe friends, the ones who mistake sympathy for understanding. They don't really understand feminine nature. They just try to please it. Women might appreciate them, but they don't desire them. Because attraction doesn't reward submission. It rewards polarity. These men collapse their masculine frame, trying to be accepted, and lose the energy women actually respond to. On paper, they should match strong, independent feminist women, but in reality, it rarely works. Even masculine women still crave masculine polarity. Two similar energies don't attract. They cancel each other out. That's why those relationships often explode. Two masculine energies fighting for control. To be honest, I can't stand male feminists. They just put me off because they don't show masculine energy. It's like talking to an alien version of a man, familiar on the surface, but foreign at the core. I'd rather see those traits in women. It feels natural there. Empathy, compassion, emotional sensitivity. That's what makes women magnetic. But when a man's whole personality is that, it feels inverted. Still, I don't hate them. I get why they exist. They're not threats. They're reflections of what happens when masculinity loses its frame. They still have a place. They just sit on the other side of the spectrum. And to be fair, it's not just women who've lost balance. A lot of men perform masculinity too. Loud, defensive, hollow. They confuse ego with strength and aggression with leadership. That's fake polarity. Real masculinity doesn't shout. It stabilizes. When you understand your archetype, your true wiring, you stop copying others. You stop forcing energy that isn't yours. You learn when to lead and when to rest. Because real strength isn't in acting hard. It's in knowing who you are and owning it fully. That's balance. That's freedom. Carl Jung called this process individuation, integrating both the masculine and feminine within the self. When that balance is missing, chaos replaces harmony. But when it's found you don't perform for power anymore, you simply are. Soft men exist, hard women exist. Balance isn't about shaming either. It's about alignment. That's the real issue today. The loss of polarity, the loss of understanding. We've traded connection for control. Stop seeing gender first. Start seeing personality. Most of what we call toxic, feminine, or masculine is just how different personalities show up under pressure. Some people are loud because that's how they process the world. Others are quiet because that's how they keep it together. Neither side is wrong. They're just wired differently. The loud voices turn personality into politics and peace into performance. But once you understand who you are and who you're dealing with, everything gets easier. If you're a woman with strong energy, own it, but balance it. If you're softer, stop apologizing. You don't have to act hard to prove you're powerful. When people stop performing and start understanding, relationships heal. Respect returns. peace becomes normal again. Because peace doesn't come from shouting louder. It comes from knowing yourself and letting others be who they are. Because when you know yourself, polarity stops being a battle. It becomes rhythm. Masculine, feminine, inhale, exhale. That's how life was meant to move. The gender war ends the moment you realise it was never about men or women. It was about balance all along. And once you learn to read the signs, peace isn't luck, it's skill. Men and women were never meant to be equal. They were meant to be essential. Two halves of one rhythm. So maybe the question isn't about equality at all. Maybe it's this. Have we become so obsessed with power that we forgot how to complement each other?